I don't think so. That's like,
Sort of. Yeah. I think it counts as fast food.
okay.
We're live.
We're live? Okay. Well, this is my filibuster. How about your favorite fast food?
Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's is strong.
Yeah.
Strong.
I just hate that.
Panda, okay. All right. I like it. Brian? No, but I'm for fast food. We transitioned.
Oh, fast food. Favorite fast food?
Brian is a huge fan of Midwestern seafood.
No, that's not. Let's see, favorite. Probably Whataburger.
Whataburger. That's always a funny thing, like coaching on teams that have a bunch of kids from California and Texas.
Oh, yeah.
The In-N-Out Burger versus Whataburger fight is hilarious. Yeah.
Legit.
This was a big thing with Rojo, Ronald Jones, running back at USC.
Yeah.
He came from Texas. The In-N-Out versus Whataburger debate was
No, yeah, what's up?
still raging.
Yeah, no, that argument is in every locker room that has both West Coast kids and kids from the South in it. I'm good. What do you got?
Anybody have any questions?
Cool. I know you've only been able to work with these guys for a year, but just the senior class, considering what they've gone through, how much do you want to make this day really about them and make it special?
I think the whole season's about them. When you get into that last rodeo, that last ride, it's such a reality check for them. And I think all of those guys have given so much to this program, given so much to their teammates, so much to the University of Arizona. I'm just incredibly grateful that they chose to stick through this last ride with me and the new staff, because obviously that was a complicated time. It was really, really challenging. And to their credit, those guys stayed together and held the team together best they could. And I'm just eternally grateful to all of them.
Michael, any update on Jonah's status for Saturday?
Not yet. He's moving around a little bit, so I'm hopeful, I guess. I'm hopeful. We'll see.
Is it like a morning of the game, work him out?
We'll probably see a little bit more tomorrow. We'll probably have a little bit of an idea. Hopefully by Friday we'll have a little bit better idea.
And what are your plans for tomorrow as far as Thanksgiving meal and all that?
Yeah, so it's something that I guess they've done here for a while. A big kind of Thanksgiving brunch with the players and their families, and which I think is just really, really special. It's always a complicated day when you have a game. Other places I've been, sometimes you're on the road for that game, and it is what it is. Sometimes you're, at my last stop, we had so many players from California that either, we did something on Wednesday night with the coaches and the team, and our wives would cook all the dessert, and then we'd send the players home after practice Thursday morning, and all the players would go shoot my house, Zoe's house, players' houses, and so we just, like, my only rule for the team on that day was that everybody had somewhere to go. This is different because so many families come to town for this game, right? Which I think is just awesome, and I think it's great that we get to break bread and be together in the morning, then get into our routine for a Thursday practice.
Right. There's been a lot of talk this week just about the emotions, passion, hate, all that with this rivalry. How do you manage that and not let it bleed into the actions of the game, personal fouls, after the whistle kind of stuff? How much have you brought that up?
No, we talk about it every day. I think that's something that has to be on your mind. I made the statement before. You want to be right on the edge of the cliff and not fall off. And I think, that's something important. In these big rivalry games, to me, one of the characteristics that always gives you a chance to be in it or to win is who plays with the most poise. And that's a critical component of this game.
Justin? What do you make of Cam Scadaboo and the kind of running back that he is? And when you were at San Jose State, did you guys know
He tripped
about
us.
Okay.
Yeah, he tripped us. I remember sitting there at Sauced, which is like a barbecue joint in Santana Row, where we used to host the recruits right by down there, and sitting there with him and his family. Great people. He's a great kid, man. And the thing I love about him is he's just a football playing fool. Like, he just loves to play, and it shows up, right? I mean, it's just cool. He's kind of an old school ball player, but he's one of those rare ones where he combines real physicality with the ability to finish runs. And if he gets out, he's a problem. And so just an incredible amount of respect for Cam, and he is a great player.
Do you think this game has a impact on recruiting, or is it more big picture, you think?
I think everything has an impact on recruiting. You know what I mean? I think, and that's one of those things in the new world that everybody's dealing with, right? If you're playing well, shoot, social media impacts recruiting. If you're not, same thing, So, but I think, in the state, obviously this is a huge game, and there's always fierce competition for the best players in the state of Arizona. So I think, yeah, of course, but I do think everything that you do impacts recruiting. And I think you have to have that mindset with it.
Brian, what are the senior day plans?
So we're following the script that they've used here in the past, with just, announcing them on the screen and having their families be there, just kind of your normal stuff that way.
Do you have a number?
12? 14? Okay, 14. Yeah.
If you look at your team and you look at ASU, one of the biggest differences is they've had great stability on the offensive line. I think they've had 4 guys who started every game at the same position. They've only had 3 different lineup combinations. You guys have had a lot more different lineup combinations.
Right.
Almost nobody started at the same position throughout the season. How big of a factor has that been in the offense maybe not being what you had hoped it would be?
I think that has a big impact. I honestly believe that football games are won up front, and like having consistency with the offensive line, because those 5 guys have to play in concert. You know what I mean? Like they have to be lockstep, and so when you get a chance to have some continuity there, where the same people are playing the same positions, right, and they know each other, and they that part of it. I think that was one of the beneficial things Arizona had a year ago, right? Is like real consistency with the offensive front. Like, and sometimes years are like that, and you're trying to do everything you can to get those guys to come together and gel and, be able to play together. And we've been doing that all year, just fighting hard. And Big Josh is doing a great job just trying to get the right pieces in there and giving them things that we think we can execute. But it is challenging.
You can't plan for injuries, obviously. But what can you do this upcoming offseason to maybe put yourself in a better position to handle things if there are a couple injuries?
Well, I think that's a combination of recruiting and then just kind of the, like whatever our clarity is with our strength and conditioning staff and our training staff and just like all those things, like those things that you constantly evaluate after every season. Like that's just part of it. But I think that depth is a huge component of that, and adding the good pieces that when you have somebody get injured, that you're not having a big drop off. When you would prefer to not go from a senior starter to a redshirt freshman. Like you would prefer to not do that if you can, just because there's so little experience in that redshirt freshman, and so much about playing, especially the offensive line, is about experience.
Justin? When it's all said and done, how do you think T-Mac and Noah will be remembered from their time at Arizona?
I think they'll be remembered as legends. I think they'll be remembered as guys that were incredible football players and also outstanding people in the community. I think when I'm watching this thing, to me, there's not a better receiver in the country than T-Mac. I think he should win the Blitnikoff. I hope he does. But like his consistency of practice and game day and how competitive he is and the relationship him and Noah have, I don't think there's any reason they shouldn't be remembered forever here.
Jonah, whether he plays or not, but there's a good chance it's his last game here. What does it speak to him as a player and a person, like moving positions, doing whatever you guys ask of him, and just his ability as a player?
I mean, that speaks to what kind of teammate he is, right? Like how much he cares about Arizona football. His willingness to move from right tackle to left tackle, and then back to right, then back to left. I mean, that speaks to me so much about how much he cares about the team, how much he cares about his teammates, and how much he cares about the U of A.
He's one of those players who, has got a lot of NFL interest.
Yep.
Could go pro after this year. Tacario Davis is another one who's maybe on the fence a little bit. Have you had conversations with those guys already about that, or is that something you will do with them like next week?
Yeah, that's something that we're just focused on this game, and that's really where everyone's head is at right now. Obviously, like there's some big decisions for some guys in the program, and we respect it and we get it. But leading up to Saturday, it's all about that, and then we'll circle back on some of those things.
So I know you've been a part of it as a coach already, but what have you observed from guys like Chuck Cecil and Brandon Sanders and guys who have been in the battlefield about what this game means to them?
Shoot, Bobby Wade. I mean, yeah, just how passionate they are about this game, how special their memories are of it, and one of the things that's really cool, and I think this is common about rivalry games because it's probably the same for fans or you all, is how clearly people remember what happens in these games, right? Like there's a very clear, historical, this is what happened on this play. This was the score. This was how much time was on the clock, right? Like it's I think that's a really special thing.
Is there any mentality to, okay, this is the last game of the season, let's be more aggressive than maybe we would game 3, or have a different mentality at all?
I think it's all about doing whatever we can to win. And I think whatever we need to call on either side of the ball to get that done, we got to do that. I still think it's going to be about playing consistently good football. That part of it I think is critical because you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage either. So playing clean, playing good football, not being just littered with penalties, being great with our ball security, and finding ways to battle and win the turnover battle, I think are critical. So I think good football trumps all that, right? Blocking, tackling, just huge effort game for us. Like the consistency of those things is more important.
Who or what stands out the most to you about ASU's defense?
They are playing hard. I think I think their defensive line, their defensive ends are really athletic and active. But really when you turn on the tape, they're playing their tails off. Like ton of respect for those guys and the people that are coaching them. They're playing extremely hard. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and that shows up when you watch the film.
Justin, how do you think a win on Saturday could set you guys up for the offseason?
Having done this for a long time, like no matter who you're playing, it always feels better to end on a winning note, like no matter what. Bless you. It always feels better. You know what I mean? Just like that part of it, the momentum for the offseason, how the guys feel going into it, all that stuff. And I've been on both sides of that. You know what I mean? But I do think it is really important because it gives you a chance. You want to feel great, and it's like the disappointment, the frustration of the season, like that's a reality, and we can't change that. But we have a chance to feel good on Saturday if we'll play great football, and I think that's what like I'm looking to.
Questions for Coach? Michael?
Josh Baker said something really interesting yesterday, that he felt like you guys have had harder practices than either of the previous 2 coaching staffs that he played for.
Okay.
What do you make of that comment? Do you think that eventually that that'll start showing up in games? I mean, you've been kind of harping on that for a while.
Yeah, I hope so. I think how you practice, the intention and the physicality that you bring to the practice environment is critical preparing you for the game days. And I think we're playing in a conference that looks to me like it's going to be a physical one, and it's going to have some big people, and we're going to have to be built that way to get in those big boy fights and be in the position at the end of the season to play into the championship space. And so I think, football's a physical game, and I think you got to practice that way, and you got to practice with crazy effort, and you have to practice with high level, intense, attention to detail. Like those things have to show up in practice so that when you get to the game day, you're ready, you're fresh, and you're just excited about cutting it loose. You know what to do, and your body is hardened by the work you've done leading up to it.
What's your assessment of the talent that's been in Arizona at the high school level, just with recruiting and all that?
Impressive, really impressive. I think with the population boom that's happened down here in the last, 25 years, there's a ton of good football players in this state. Some really high-level teams. I'm super impressed by it. Now, I've been coming down here recruiting for, since our Oregon State days, and even a little bit at San Jose. So that's not surprising to me. I think there's more talent here now than even 10 years ago.
Why do you think so many players have left the state?
That's a good question, because people have said that to me, that in-state kids, you know, are interested in you know, being somewhere else. You know, like I know that's something that they've had in the past at like in the state of Hawaii. You know what I mean? And I don't know exactly why that is, but for me, like our number one goal is to fight our tails off to keep the absolute best players in the state of Arizona here at the U of A. And that is an absolute number one goal of us. You have to do a great job in your own backyard, and that is critical for us going forward.
In that same vein, how did you get Trey Smith to San Jose State, and what did you see in him that maybe some others didn't see?
Yeah, Trey's an awesome story, and you know, and his story's still being written. I think, you know, there's a lot of high-level plays that are going to come from that young man. He was one of our former players that was down here coaching high school football, saw him and reached out to us, and we went and saw him, or we watched the tape, and we were like, wow, he's got length, he's twitchy, he's explosive off the edge. He didn't have a ton going on in terms of the recruiting space, and so I came down here to see him with Coach Sayamalo, and we spent an afternoon with him, and he was funny. He was kind of quiet. He's like into music and all this stuff, and we were like, this guy want to play? And then the COVID hit, so we signed him, and then COVID hit, and so and at that time California was on such lockdown, and we had this like magical football season, but he pushed it, and he showed up in January. And what happened was he fell in a room with Cade Hall, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Mountain West that year, and Junior Fehoko, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Mountain West a year later. And he hitched his wagon to those guys. And so he was raised by some guys that were dead-ass serious about hard work, training, football. Like he was one of those, you know, my last 2 years at San Jose, I swear to goodness, I could have set my watch to the time Trey Smith was walking in the building. He was there all the time. Didn't matter. I mean, like every day of the year. He was that kind of committed kid, and that continues to show up with him.
More questions, Jason? Paulie Conley.
Yep.
His last game coming up. Just what can you tell us about him as a, you know, when you reflect on him?
What an awesome human being Quali is, with what he's been going through the last, you know, year with his mom, and you know, everything he's given to this team. He's been banged up. He just keeps practicing. He keeps playing. He's not a guy that says a lot, but he has the total respect of the team. And you know, I'm just so glad that he allowed us to coach him and be a part of his life. I love him, and I'm excited to see him play on Saturday. I really am.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Don't forget your birthday.
I won't.